Welcome to the podcast growth series. If you're ready to grow your audience, increase your downloads, and finally see your podcast gain the traction it deserves, this series is for you. Over the next 12 episodes, I'll guide you step by step through strategies to help you understand your audience, make your content more discoverable, and create episodes that listeners love to share. This isn't just a series for inspiration or fluff. It is designed to help you achieve real, tangible growth. Each episode is built on the last, giving you practical, actionable insights you can implement right away. By the end, you have a complete system for sustainable podcast growth, and you have achieved real progress towards the audience and impact you've always wanted. So grab your notebook and pen, and let's get started. Well, hello, and welcome back to episode 5 of the series. Today, we are talking about collaborations in a way to grow your visibility. So remember that now what we're doing is we're building out the foundation of our podcast growth. And next month, get excited because we're talking monetization. Now, why we do this in this order is because we have to make sure that our podcast is optimized. Because then once we have that foundation in place, now we can focus on making money on the podcast. So of course, the visibility aspect of it all comes first, and then we're going to monetize. Now, I need to lay down some ground rules first. If you are a podcaster who has ever been a guest on somebody else's show and you did not promote that episode, please repent and don't do that ever again. It is a very just crappy, like literally it's just a crappy situation for you to go on somebody else's podcast. Somebody literally welcomed you into their virtual home, their podcast, and had you over for tea. And then it's like you left and you didn't even say thank you. Like the way that you say thank you to somebody who hosts you on their show is by promoting it when the podcast episode goes live. So please don't be one of those people who feel like they're too good to help promote a podcast. Do your part. This is part 1, right? Part 2 is this. If you have somebody, right? Like let's say sometimes we dream of having a person on our show, right? And then said person is like, okay, I'll go on your show. But then like one of the things they say is that they're not going to promote it. Don't have them on your show because honestly, we're all human beings here and nobody's better than the other. Sure, there are people out there who have done amazing things and we idolize them and we want them to come on our show. But this whole idea that I am too good and I am so big and you're too irrelevant for me to promote when the episode goes live, like that just bothers me so much. And we are not here for that. Like ain't nobody at that level. You know what I'm saying? Like if I have you over on my show and like I said, I had you over for tea, right? Virtual tea. And now you don't want to say thank you by promoting it. Like that's just not somebody that you should aspire to have on your show. Like that's not the kind of person, period. So don't ever feel like, I've seen this so many times in this podcasting space where somebody says, oh my gosh, this person, I have been wanting to have her on my show for so long, but she's not going to promote the podcast. But why? Why not? Like, it does not make any sense to me whatsoever. So let's let that go. And let's not collaborate with people that just don't want to take part in it. Like, what is the point? Like, do they feel like they're doing a favor to us by coming on our show? No, we're not here for that. And then the third thing that I want to talk to you as part of laying down the groundwork for this episode is this. Let go of this idea that big name guests grow your podcast. Okay. Yes, it is true. You might have somebody on your show and for that one specific episode, you had a lot of downloads, but they were there for the guest. They were not there for you. And once the guest left, so did they. Okay. So this idea that you're going to get all these downloads because you have big names. Yes, it's partly true, but it doesn't convert. Just because you had some big name on your show doesn't mean that those listeners that came for that person are actually going to stay on your podcast. And what you want is listeners that are there for you, regardless of who the guest is. So please let go of this idea that you need guests to grow your show. What you need to grow your show is you being authentic. And of course, I'm going to say this, SEO optimizing. Okay. You need to make your podcast searchable. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about how you can leverage the power of collaborations to grow your podcast. Like I said, I am a big fan of not having big names on your show just for the sake of having big names on your show. I think every person that comes on your show, it needs to be a very strategic collaboration. And I am a fan of doing podcast swaps. So the way that I would do this, like the order that I always tell my clients to prioritize things is this. Number one, I want you to guest on other people's podcasts, and you are going to be an amazing guest. You're going to be the best guest that the host has ever had. Okay. Like that is the attitude that we're bringing here. So number one, I want you to guest on other people's podcasts. The second thing I want you to do is, okay, let's say that person is up for a podcast swap. So then we're going to prioritize a podcast swap second. And then third, let's say there's somebody out there you really want to have on your show and like they're huge and they're not going to have you on your show, but you don't care. You really honestly don't care. Then you have them as a guest and that's it. Okay. That's okay too. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to abide by all these rules or whatever. Like, your podcast should feel really good and really fun. But that is the order that I always tell my clients. Number one, you guest on other people's podcasts. Number two, we do podcast swaps. And number three, you let just people come on your show for the sake of coming on your show to, for you to have a magical time with them. Okay. So the reason for that is because podcast listeners listen to podcasts. So before you go out and you try to expand the visibility of your show outside of course, we're always SEO optimizing it, right? So outside of SEO optimization, I don't want you to feel like now you're going to go and focus your time on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, because here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to get off on a tangent here. I have data because your girl is data driven. I'm a data driven geek and I like numbers. I was doing research for a client the other day, and the long story short is this. There was this podcast. They have 100,000 followers on Instagram, but they were getting maybe 500 downloads on an episode. Guys, it doesn't convert. Listen to that again. 100,000 followers on Instagram, 500 downloads on the podcast. It does not convert. The other one that I had looked at, this person had 13,000 followers on Instagram, and they had less than, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they had 13,000 followers on Instagram, and then the downloads varied between 200, and then on the highest end, they had 5,000. However, the reason why the 5,000 was there was because they had a big name guest on their show. And remember what I said at first, this whole idea they're going to have a big name on your show. It works to a certain extent, but if that guest, let's say, had converted the listeners, right, for that episode into listeners for the podcast, not just that one episode, then we would have seen growth throughout. And that was not true. Okay. So now that I got off on that tangent, let's bring back to what I was saying. Outside of growing your podcast with SEO optimization, the next way to grow your podcast is by going on people's podcasts. Why? Because podcast listeners listen to podcasts. So you're always going to grow your podcast inside of the podcast app, not outside of the podcast app. Can you recycle your content on IG, on TikTok, whatever your heart desires? Absolutely, 100%. I'm here for it. Recycle your heart out. But remember, when you recycle content from your podcast to wherever else, you're growing that platform. It's not going to convert on your podcast, right? It can sometimes, but very, very little. And the goal here is I recorded this podcast episode. It is video. And now I'm going to take snippets and I'm going to put it up on TikTok or Instagram. But the goal here is that now this piece of content that came from my podcast is going to grow whatever platform I'm repurposing on. So if it's TikTok or Instagram or whatever. So we need to let go of this idea that we're going to grow our podcast on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, because it does not convert. I have data to back this up. Okay, cool. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the next part, right? So how do we find the right people that align with us? So first of all, you want somebody who is in a like-minded niche of yours and somebody who is almost is a supportive role in what you do, right? So for example, I have a client, Caroline, and Caroline has a podcast on decluttering and home organization. She's a KonMari expert. And the edge of Caroline is that she has a gift for helping people with ADHD. So a good podcast for Caroline to look to go on would not be other home organization podcasts, but rather moms of ADHD kids or entrepreneurs with ADHD or anything in that space, in the neurodivergent space. That would be a great option for Caroline. So you really need to think, okay, what are niches that really support what I do and are not competition? And it's not because I have this competition kind of mindset, like, oh my gosh, I do this and you also do this and we are enemies. That's not it at all. It's just because it really doesn't make any sense. Like we really need to focus on the supporting roles of what it is that we do rather than look for things that are like exactly the same as we do, because those interviews are just going to be a lot harder to land, So what are guests with other podcasts that support the main idea of your show that are not in your exact niche? Those are going to be the ones that are going to be easy yeses, and you're going to have a lot of success going on because, again, like you're complementing what the podcaster does and you're not competing with them. So it's going to be a much easier yes. Okay, so we have that. And the next part is for you to start pitching an idea to them. So whether you want to be a guest on their show or you want to do a podcast swap with them, obviously the next step is for you to send them an email. Please, 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 please do not be the person who just puts people in your email list. That is illegal, but people do it all the time. But do not be the person that just subscribes people into your email list, just uploads a random list into your email list and mass emails them. Like that is so bad. Like we're not here for that. Also, it's okay for you to have some sort of template, some sort of thing that you can copy and paste, right? Like your main ideas, like let's say you have this 3 core episodes, topics that you talk about. That's okay for you to use that. But I want you to personalize your pitches to the person you're pitching to. I get pitches in my inbox on a daily basis and I ignore them because first of all, people do just subscribe me to their email list without my consent, which again is illegal, but whatever, like people do it. They send me this mass pitches that really don't make any sense. And some of these pitches, some of the people that want to be on my show, I'm like, did you listen to this podcast? Because clearly we're not aligned. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So don't try to automate this part, okay? We are in the age of AI and AI this and AI that, and AI can do so much for us, right? But let's be smart about that, okay? In a world that is going towards AI more and more every single day, how can we be more human? Let's go off another sidebar here. All the copy in this online space, all the written things that we see online, the text that we see online, it's all starting to sound the same because everybody is using AI, right? So even if you are in 2 separate niches that have nothing to do with each other, the text, the copywriting just sounds so much alike because everybody's relying on AI. So don't be that person. Be more human, be more you. It's okay. It's great. Like we love humans around here. So let's praise on that. And going back to what I was saying, we live in this world of AI and people are trying to automate everything, but in automating everything, that's when we're getting like these pitches that don't make any sense. And it's just bad. It's just bad practices. And like, we're not here for that. We're here for the human connection. We're here for genuine interaction. So manually look for podcasts that you want to be on rather than trying to use a service or paying for some random service to find podcasts for you to be on. Just actually look for guests manually. There are services out there. There's one that I'm blanking the name on right now. I'm going to try to find it. I will put the link to it in the show notes, okay? Because there's no, I'm going to remember now. And if I start typing here on my computer, then I'll go on all sorts of tangents. But there is a service out there that's quite affordable and you can use to find guests, to guest on their shows and to have them on your show. So that's one way. But I am a big fan of good old, I'm going to go on the Apple Podcast app and I'm going to search for podcasts, right? So like, let's use my client Caroline as an example, right? So she would look for ADHD women. Let's just put that keyword on there and see what comes up. So then we have a bunch of podcasts that came up, right? So let's see here. I'm looking at this podcast called the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Podcast. The name of the host is Kate. I cannot pronounce the last name, so I'm not going to try. And Kate is active. Her podcast looks like it's a lot of fun. So this could potentially be a very good podcast for my client Caroline to be on, right? So let's say this is one that's going to go on, my client's Caroline's list of podcasts to reach out to. So then, we have this one. So now we're going to go back to the search bar. And, we're looking for ADHD woman. That's the keyword that we're typing, very general, very broad, but it's a good start. And then we have here this other podcast, and it's called Do I Have ADHD? And this one is by Cheska Nicole. And Cheska is also an active podcaster, right? So this would be another good podcast for my client Caroline to be on. So let's just find one more. ADHD with Confidence with Kelsey Spronk. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. That also looks like a great podcast for my client Caroline to be on. Obviously, at this point, you're doing like this research, right? And you have found a couple of podcasts that sound good, that feel aligned. So at this point, what you want is to make sure that you have a Google Doc or a Google Sheets, or if you're old school, you can just, write it on a piece of paper with your cute little pen, and you want to make a list. Okay, I'm just joking. Please don't do this on pen and paper. It's not going to work. It's going to be a lot of work. Just do it on a Google Sheets, okay? So you want to make a list, right? So then you want to put the podcast name. You want to put the host name. Obviously, we need to find an email there so we can reach out to them. The next step is for you to send them an email and speak from the heart. And here's the other thing too. Listen to an episode or two. Like, don't just just be that random person who doesn't even listen to the podcast. And here's the other thing too. Leave them a review. Leave them a 5-star review. Okay. Like if you want to be a guest on somebody else's podcast, the first thing you should be doing is make sure that you leave them a review, and you can let them know hey, I actually listened to the podcast. I feel super aligned. I've left you a review. And here's the other thing too. Let them know that if you are a guest, you are absolutely going to do your part in promoting the podcast. Be proactive and letting them know, this is how I'm going to promote your podcast, okay? And just be that kind of guest. Bring that kind of energy and be superhuman. Like, what I mean is not like a superhero kind of superhuman. I mean, be more human than AI. That's what I mean to say. And that is it. Now, does that mean that you're going to send one email and then you're going to get a reply right away? No, that's not the case, right? Sometimes people email me and then I forget. I make a mental note to get back to them and I forget, right? So that's when it's helpful for you to re-engage, right? If you have not heard back, if you had not heard a yes or a no, re-engage. So you can wait, say 5 days, right? And you can say, hey, I'm just popping back in. I know your inbox is probably flooded right now. So I just wanted to pop up on your inbox again. Let me know if you're interested. And hopefully they'll answer. And if they don't, you can wait, say, another 7 days or maybe 10 days and re-engage again. Don't be a PETA, right? But re-engage because it's okay. And then let's say they say no. It's okay. It's all cool. You're going to have all this information saved on a Google Doc. Not a Google Doc, a Google Sheets somewhere. So you can reach back out again in 6 months. It's okay. Listen, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. If somebody says no to you, it doesn't mean that you have to feel rejected and all those things, even though we're going to feel sad and disappointed. It's okay. It's just part of the process. Okay. And just know that this is a numbers game. So, to be quite honest with you, for every 10 people that you pitch, you're going to get a 1 yes, right? So don't take it personally. It's okay. It's all good. And the easier yeses are going to be the ones where you are suggesting a podcast swap, because then, you're getting something and your guest is also getting something, which is that visibility. Now, on the topic of podcast swaps, one thing that you can consider, and this is more high level, is if you have a podcasting buddy who's in a space that complements you, right? Maybe you guys want to do a launch together. I have done this with my friend and my client, Marta Spurk, before, and it was really fun. And we did a temporary podcast, but actually we loved it so much that it's still up. So you can still find it. And I forget what it's called, but if you put Marta and Juliana, we're going to come up. Or if you put Marta Spurk and Juliana Barbati, we're going to come up. I think it was called Visibility Takeoff or something like that. But it was just a short little thing that we did And it was super fun. And we did the launch together. And like I said, we love the podcast so much that we decided to keep it up. But those are fun things that you can do once you have a podcast buddy and things are aligned and it makes sense for you guys to do a collaboration of some sort. Now, like I said, this is a high level thing. It's not something that you start podcasting yesterday and like now you're going to jump into a collaboration. Give yourself some time around here. But it is another fun but advanced way for you to really have an effective collaboration with somebody else in your space. So what is the main takeaway here? The main takeaway here is that we're going to let go of this idea that just like guests are going to grow our podcast. Okay, you need to grow your podcast. The reason why your podcast is a success is because of you. It's because of what you talk about. It's not because you have, so-and-so on your show. Okay, like my love, you can do this. Trust in your ability to make this happen. Okay, like you don't depend, your success does not depend on your guests. Okay, cool? We cool? So that's number one. Number two, I really want you to prioritize being a guest on other people's shows, but not just any guest. The best guest that the host has ever seen in their lives. Okay? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Do they have a Facebook group? Okay. When that episode goes live, you go on that Facebook group and you engage on there, my girl or my boy. Mostly of the people that listen to my show are women. But you need to be the best guest that person has ever seen. Okay? And then after you have guested, the other thing that you're going to prioritize is doing those podcast swaps. And then lastly, if there is somebody that you really want to have on your show, and it's like, I don't know, let's say you want to have a conversation with Brene Brown. Okay, have Brene Brown on your show. That's cool. Like, we're here for that. Like it's okay for you to have a guest on your show, but I don't want you to idolize anybody and think that having so-and-so on your show is going to grow, because that's just not the vibe. Have the guest on your podcast because you want to have a conversation with them and you're curious about them, but not because you think like, oh my gosh, this guest is going to take my career to the moon, because that's not true. Okay. Anyway, my love, I have a really fun homework assignment for you, which you'll get in your inbox. So if you have not yet signed up to be on the email list, then please make sure that you go ahead in the show notes. I will leave that linked for you so you can go ahead and join me there. And I will be sending you the homework prompt. And like I said, it's a fun one this month. And if, let's say, this is the first time that you're listening to the series, all the homework prompts are there for you. So we can go back to January and listen to the first episode, right? So like now we're 5 episodes into the series. You can follow along. You can do the homework and have fun, because again, remember, we're working towards a goal here. The goal is by the end of this year, you're going to see progress in your podcast. You're going to see growth. You're going to see things happen. Okay. We're working towards something. Okay. I do not want to be more noise in your earbuds. I want you to accomplish something huge this year. And this is how we're doing it. My love, next month, we're talking monetization. And I'm so excited. I cannot wait to talk to you then. Bye.